Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 107 of the Best Games Period. I am your host, Jack Gardner, and with me this week is the always trusty, always available, always amazing Naomi Lugo.
I sound like the horse you can summon in an RPG.
I need to stop calling you trusty. I think that's...
A trusty steed.
I
am Roach. I will just immediately be there when you call. Sometimes a little buggy, but I'll be there.
I feel like I, for whatever reason, have fallen back on using the word trusty as a word to like introduce you with, and I want to get away from that. So next time I'm gonna break out a thesaurus.
A thesaurus.
And we'll see what we come up with.
Oh man, I mean it could be worse than trusty, I guess.
The unreliable, the
completely terrible,
the totally chaotic,
and unbearable
Naomi Lugo.
That's right.
So this week we are going to be talking about Dream Daddy.
Dream Daddy.
Yeah. It is an excellent visual novel / dating simulator from indie developers, as sponsored by the Game Grumps, a notable YouTube channel. And yeah, this is the Best Games Period, where every week we talk about a game that may or may not be one of the best games of all time, or at least should be considered up there. And we talk about it, and sometimes we argue about it, sometimes we agree on it, and
sometimes we get into fistfights, and
that has never happened.
It gets a little messy.
That has never happened. No,
I'm pretty sure it definitely has. I mean, because obviously we're sitting like across from each other right now, aren't we? Making eye contact,
shooting literal daggers, not just eye daggers, literal daggers. We each have a dagger gun,
pew, pew, pew. Like tiny daggers.
Well, I mean, really, if you get down into it, isn't that what a bullet is? It's a tiny dagger.
Dart. Pew pew
pew pew pew.
Because that's what the sound that daggers make is pew pew.
It's the scientific
noise. Fight me about it, guys.
It's the scientific noise. It's the blade cutting the air. Anyway,
what have you been playing this week?
This week I have been playing Stellaris because it is the giant 4X game that always sucks me back in. They're prepping some big updates, and I'm kind of excited about it. And this last playthrough, I created a horrible, very extremely long-lived empire of demon creatures, and they are also telepathic and manage to reach into the shroud that connects all possible universes, and managed to commune with some entity that declared the ruler of my empire as an immortal chosen one. So,
I mean, what could go wrong with telepathic demon creatures?
Well,
that sounds perfectly fine to me.
The latest development is that they once again reached into that same void, and they came into contact with some kind of eldritch entity, and made a deal with it, and gives them 50 years of incredible prosperity. It basically doubles all of your stats across the board, and they're using that to try and conquer the entire galaxy. But if they fail, this eldritch demon creature will manifest and doom the entire galaxy. So keep your fingers crossed for my horrible demon creatures.
It sounds like a very, very complicated game, but amazing.
It is very fun. I love it so much. I've also been playing Dream Daddy, so it's a good mixture of the two things.
Obviously the same genre and everything.
Oh yeah, 100%. My demon creatures would be right at home in the cul-de-sac. What about you? What have you been playing?
So, I actually got to play games this week, which was weird.
What?
I know, right?
Games?
So, I know, multiple, besides the Pokemon ones that are on my phone, which I'm still playing. I mean, I gotta defend my gym in Pokemon Go because Red Team is always on our butts, and we need to kick them out. Anyway.
Go Red Team!
Boo! Yeah, that's all I got. So I played a game, an indie game on Itch.io called Pet the Pup at the Party, which was absolutely adorable.
Aww.
So, yeah, so you play as a socially awkward person who does not want to be at a party. We can all relate to that.
Mm-hmm.
And you've heard the rumor that there are puppies at this game, or at this place.
You heard that there were puppies in the game.
I mean, that's why I played it. But, so, your goal is to dodge everyone and not talk to anyone at all, so you can go pet the puppy. And there's a timer, and you're running through the doors, and it's kind of surreal because, you know, the doors connect to weird layouts in the house. Anyway, so you want to pet the puppy at the end of the game, and it just keeps going until you fail to pet a puppy in a round, and it was pretty amazing. I was so stressed out. Like, I have to get to the puppy, because you hear the puppy barking and summoning you, like, woof, woof, and then you kind of sniff them out and find them, and it's really cute. And it's free on Itch.io, so why not play it? It's amazing. And then my partner actually forced me to play a little bit of Vermintide 2, which is a Warhammer game. It is obviously the sequel to Vermintide, and they're actually pretty fun games. I don't know if you know anything about Vermintide, Jack.
I do.
But yeah, it's actually kind of like Left 4 Dead. I mean, the genres don't overlap because Vermintide is more of a fantasy medieval kind of thing, and Left 4 Dead is zombies, but the mechanics are pretty similar. You have a team of 4, you're trying to reach an objective at the end of a map. There's different types of enemies. There's like the base enemies that are pretty easy to just completely slaughter in this game. Like, there is a lot of blood. Every once in a while, my partner will be playing the game while I fall asleep, and I'll just hear just slicing and like rats screaming like it's totally great, soothing sounds to fall asleep to.
Question.
And then, yeah.
Did you get the Warhammer?
No.
Oh, okay.
I do not do anything with Warhammer, so yeah. But I played the game, so yeah, it was pretty fun.
Did you do
played
well?
A couple rounds. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Congrats.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty fun. You just slice through a lot of stuff, and your characters have different abilities, so, you know.
Or should I say,
stuff.
Conrats?
No, you should not say that, because we have not gotten to the dad jokes section of the podcast yet.
Also, I have actually played Pet the Pup at the Party. I played it about a year ago, and it was a really fun, stylish little game about avoiding social interaction, and it was great.
Isn't it adorable?
I related to it way too much.
Because I am definitely that person who will just not talk to people and go find the cats or the dogs to go hang out with at a party. Absolutely. Yeah. That's me. Because, yeah. And then the dogs or cats are like, oh my god, let me go. And I'm like, nope, you can't leave me.
Can't leave me without Rachel like this.
Yeah. Shall we talk Dream Daddies?
I guess we should. So what is Dream Daddy?
So Dream Daddy is a dating sim, but it is also got some endearing moments in it as well. So it's not just pure...
Are you implying that dating sims don't have good, pure moments in them?
They are all deeply rich in content and not singly focused at all. I mean, I would never imply that.
Look, just because a lot of them fall into the harem genre that are so unrealistic, and this is a game about a bunch of hot dads that happen to live in the same cul-de-sac.
Best cul-de-sac ever. Hey, I mean, there's rich classics in the genre, like, and I can't remember the name of it, but there's one where you can date a horseman, right? And he's literally just a dude's face on a horse body.
Oh yeah, I actually have that game on my phone. I can tell you what it's called.
I've been meaning to play it.
It's a terrible, terrible game, and I do not recommend it to anyone except if you are curious about just how weird games can be.
Oh man.
On my phone,
Aren't we all?
on my phone it's just labeled Umapri, which I don't think is the actual name of the game. It's called My Horse Prince.
Of course it is.
Okay.
All
right.
So in Dream Daddy, you are a dad, and you are moving into a new town with your lovely and amazing daughter, Amanda. And Amanda is wonderful, and she's forcing you out of your socially awkward shell and makes you talk to the other people in the neighborhood who just happen to be a bunch of really hot dads, right?
Hot and available dads.
Semi-available.
For the most part.
There's some, I mean, they're all, you can talk to all of them, but, I mean, there's some nuances in that, but we shall get to that later. So yeah, you're navigating this town, talking to, well, I mean, it depends on how you play, but there's 7 different dads that you can romance and get to know a little better. And their names are Matt, and Matt is the saucy barista in town. He owns a cute little coffee shop. He's really adorable. He's also socially awkward.
Yep.
Craig, who's a buff bro dad, and your character actually knew him in college. Hugo, who's the teacher, kind of nerdy dad. You got Brian, he's the athletic, I guess.
Let's be real here, though. They're all nerdy dads.
I mean, they
with the exception of Rob.
I mean, he's a nerd.
I mean,
in his own way.
he's a nerd about a very select few things, but otherwise not a nerd.
Yeah. But Brian's kind of the competitive dad. Yeah, we'll go with that. Damien, who is your goth dad. Oh my gosh, love Damien. Because, I mean, goth dad, yes. Robert, who is the sultry bad boy. And then Joseph, who is, I think he's either a youth minister or preacher in town.
Yeah, he's a youth minister.
Yeah. Those are the 7 dads.
I didn't romance him, but I got the impression that he used to be a sailor or something.
Yeah, I think he was in the Navy. From what I can remember.
Yeah, it's a good cast of characters, and you have a whole lot of different options, and it's interesting because it's not really, like, even though the framing of the game might lend itself to seeing these characters as, like, exploitative stereotypes, they do a really good job of not doing that, and of kind of, like, just letting these relationships exist as, like, pretty natural feeling relationships, which is unusual in the genre.
Moments. Yeah, you're not just like this big stud who everyone falls head over heels for instantly. Like, you gotta work at these daddies. That sounded bad. But you gotta work at getting to know these daddies.
We just have to just to dive right into it. It's gonna be awkward whenever we're talking about these daddies, so we just need to let it just go with it.
All right, let's just go with it. So yeah, Amanda. We'll talk about Amanda first, because she's pretty great and wonderful. She's your daughter, and she's a senior in her last few months in high school, so you're going through those dad feelings of having to let your baby girl go really soon. Oh, and a little bit more backstory. So your partner, who can be male or female, you can choose that at the beginning of the game after creating your own daddy, who is fully customizable.
And can be trans.
And can be trans and can have Goku hair. I definitely have Goku hair in my most recent one. So you can choose whether or not male or female, but no matter what, that partner has passed away. It seems like quite a bit of long time ago. I can't remember exactly. So you have to deal with those kind of emotions. And as a dad, you have a moment in the beginning where you're, trying to navigate those feelings, because you're obviously missing your partner, but you know that Amanda is as well. But she's extremely well-adjusted and amazing, and she kind of pushes you along as well. But yeah, I really loved the addition of Amanda, because obviously as a dad, you need a kid, right?
Yeah.
But I think they chose a really interesting stage of kiddo. They could have just gone with a baby, just to kind of use it as an excuse, and then just let the game be all about these dads. But they actually created a pretty endearing relationship between these two, and you have moments where you're actually dadding, you know, not just seeking out hot dads. So
yeah. It was like really that aspect that grounded it for me. Like, it wasn't just go on date, go back to menu, go on date, go back to menu. It was between all those dates, you know, you're spending time with your daughter and she's having problems with, like, her friends, or, like, teenage angst, or angst about going off to college, or all these different issues. And, like, the title of Dream Daddy seemed like, at least when I was doing a good job of parenting this digital child, like, hey, maybe I'm also the dream dad. You know, my dad in this game is the dream dad, because they're making, like, ideal decisions as a parent, you know?
Yeah, and I mean, your choices in how you dad, they're not super crazy on the spectrum, but you do have a little bit of choice in your style. Like, you can choose to be like a sappy dad, you can be cheesy all the time and crack jokes, you can do a mixture. But I like the way they made her react to those different things, you know? Like, she seems like, you know, a real teenager, I guess.
Yeah.
Real-ish. Because there are moments where she's a brat, and you gotta deal with that, but that's a teenager, for sure.
Yeah, and there are moments where, like, she's very clearly just being a kid, and whether that's in her being happy about something, or sad about something, or angry about something. And then there are moments where she's almost more mature than, you know, your main character. Like,
right in the beginning where she has to wake you up and actually move the household.
Yeah. And so you I don't know, I liked all of that stuff quite a bit, and then it does a really good job of introducing all of the different dads, because basically you're going through the town and going around just getting to know these different locations that are around your new home, and while you're doing that, you bump into a bunch of these different dads, and they all happen to live on your cul-de-sac, and then there's a big, like, town, like, cul-de-sac cookout, and so you get to interact with all of them, and kind of get a little taste of what their deal is. And it was nice. How do I phrase this? It was nice how normal and not exploitative a lot of these interactions felt.
Yeah, it wasn't a bunch of schoolgirls thrown into a room with you and forced to interact with the one male character. Yeah, it was more organic. Like, you can choose to go get coffee, and then you happen to meet Matt because he owns the coffee shop. Like, it just kind of makes sense.
Yeah. Well, and so not to dip too much into this, but part of what I was kind of worried about when I initially heard about Dream Daddy, like, you know, last year, a couple years ago or something, was that it would... Because I've played a fair amount of visual novels, I've played a fair amount of, we'll say, PG-13 or R-rated visual novels, and one of the interesting aspects for me is that a lot of those games have been largely where LGBT content is in gaming for a very long time. Like, that is just kind of how things have shaken out. Because often
it's one of the main hubs. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Because often you're not going to get a gay main character in a video game that's commercially released in the mainstream. It's just not going to happen like that. It's the kind of thing where, even though it's 2016, you have a publisher saying, oh, we can't publish a game with a woman on the cover. That's crazy. And and that's just a woman. Like, imagine a gay man or a lesbian woman or a trans person. Like,
those don't exist. What?
Like, it. So this, I mean, just to go on another slight tangent, like that's why it's all ridiculous when people are crying about, oh no, there's not more white men on game covers anymore or as protagonists anymore, because you literally have never seen a trans main character in a video game. And if you can give me one example, like the one I can think of is maybe Nier, and that's like one character. I don't even know if Kane is the main character, but that's one, maybe, sort of, if you bend the rules of my question.
Yeah.
Yes. and this was, even though it kind of came from a similar style and roots as maybe those more exploitative titles that I'm talking about, Dream Daddy managed to rise above all of that and is just a good narrative adventure, I guess.
Yeah.
It's a game that I'd like to see more of, or like evolve into, I guess, a different presentation that might bring in more people, like more of a Gone Home style genre that goes into those interpersonal drama stuff. But sorry, I'm rambling. I'm rambling.
No worries. No. But yeah, one that isn't just solely packed away as just another weird indie game. Like, you know, one that, and not saying anything like bad about weird indie games, like I love those, but one that is, those indie games tend to just kind of be pushed aside because they are tailored towards different audiences. And just because those audiences are different doesn't mean that a bigger pool of people wouldn't want to play them. And then, just speaking to what you said earlier, there is a pretty cool segment that the comedian Jim Jeffries put out about a week ago, and it was about how there's been a lot of backlash against diversity in comic books, and he does a really good job of kind of disassembling just why, or not necessarily why, but he interviews people, specifically one YouTuber who has been absolutely against diversity, and I just really recommend it just because he picks this person apart so subtly, and it's just really great. Anyway, there's my tangent. But yeah, the representation in this game, I mean, that's why I was drawn to like the Kickstarter and following it before it even came out. Like, it was really exciting. Dream Daddy had a ton of buzz around it before it came out. Like, the Twitter page and everything was exploding about this game. And I mean, it had a pretty big backer behind it with Game Grumps in their channel. But I think people were just genuinely really excited to see something like this. And you've used a word a lot, exploitative. It definitely could have just gone into that realm and made, you know, like gay dad jokes and just made this really dumb. But instead, they took their time and really wrote this dialogue out so that it could serve different facets of the audience. You know, like, of course, the different dads serve a stereotype. You know, we have the jock dad, the goth dad, all that stuff. But they use those characters to kind of go into different realms of different things that happen as people. Like, the goth dad is so concerned about his image that you have to kind of tear away those layers to see who he really is, you know. And there's kind of really sweet moments where he gets really bashful when you find out certain hobbies of his, you know. And
I'd just like to give a shout out to Vernon Shaw and Leighton Gray. And people might recognize Vernon Shaw. He used to do a channel on YouTube called Hot Pepper Gaming, and he's come a long way. He's doing a bunch of different stuff now since then. Like, they shut the channel down and all the people went their separate ways, and he went on to write Dream Daddy, and it's really fantastic. And I've met him a couple times. He's super nice, and I'm glad to see he's doing well.
Huh?
Yeah, like you said, it uses these archetypes to build into something more, something like the actual human feeling characters that have they have their upsides and downsides, and things they're good at and things they're bad at. Often it's this genre is more used for jokes or for cheese puff. Is that the term I'm looking for?
Probably not, but I love it.
Cheesecake?
No.
What am I thinking of? Like
cheese ball?
No. I'm thinking of it's not softcore pornography. I'm talking about the step below that.
If it has a specific name, I'm not aware of it.
Okay, well, it's used for that slight titillation, that
cheese puff.
That cheese puff factor.
Cheese puff factor. That's wonderful.
Gosh, yeah. Steam these days has games like North Korean dating sim about a tourist that goes to North Korea and finds a harem of beautiful women that are North Korean soldiers that he can seduce. And that's more typical of this genre, and often it's basically that same sort of setup, though take North Korea out of the equation, and just replace, it's a woman with a harem of women, or it's a guy with a harem of guys, and that's it. The purpose of the game is still the same. It's just with gender of preference swapped around a little bit.
Yeah, with a few features thrown in here, the setting changed up. Yeah. This game avoids the pitfalls that it could have gone into. Okay, so the way the actual dating is structured is you meet the dads for the first time, right? And then there's a barbecue? Like you said, like the cul-de-sac party kind of thing, where you can actually meet all of them in case you missed them in their first round. And then you go on 3 different dates. And based on the success of your dates, you can get an ending with the character depending on how well you did. And within some of those, and in different parts of the game, there are these mini games. So, for example, when you first meet Brian, the competitive dad, when you meet him at the park with his puppy and his daughter, you go into a mini Pokemon style game, which is adorable, but kind of impossible. I've never been able to beat that part. I don't know if it is beatable. Anyway, so there's these different kind of Easter eggy games to play, and some of them are great, and then some of them were very painful for me. There was one, I think it was with Matt. You go to a concert with him, and you have to avoid. It's a side-scrolling game, and then you have to avoid various people to get to the end. It was forever long, and there were just parts of the game that just weren't fun, and it wasn't working right for me. So, I don't know, how did you feel about the mini games that you got to play?
In general, I thought they were pretty... They did a good job breaking up the monotony of a typical visual novel-style game. But, they were generally pretty rough unless they were... very structured, like that Pokemon battle one you mentioned. I really enjoyed that one. That was probably the highlight of the ones I played, which makes sense. But yeah, so I did Matt's storyline. That was the main one I played, and so I know which minigame you're talking about. And that one in particular wasn't difficult. It was just kind of...
It was annoying.
Yeah, it was kind of boring. The novelty of it wore off before it was done.
Was it just me, or was it forever?
No, it
I was
took a long
I get
time.
it. I get it. And I at the end I was just whatever, I didn't care anymore. So, yeah.
Yeah, and also I didn't understand the controls for the piano playing sequence in Matt's storyline.
Yeah.
Which is fine. It's supposed to sound terrible, but I would have at least liked to know what the buttons did. So yeah, there's some rough around the edges parts, but mostly they do what they're setting out to do.
Yeah, like I definitely appreciated them, like you said, like to break up the, click this, click, 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 pick a choice, click, 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 like that. It definitely did a good job. And I did like how adorable some of them were, but actually playing them, not so much. At least some of them. Like I did not like the mini golf one. I think that's with Preacher Boy. I just could not get the controls on that one. But other people have said that they really like that one, so I guess it just depends on how you play.
Yeah.
But in general, a lot of them were pretty rough. So those could have used a little bit more work. But the art style in this game is actually pretty awesome, I thought.
No, yeah, I love how the daddies are drawn, and they're drawn really well, and they have very good characterization that plays into those stereotypes. Not the stereotypes, plays into the archetypes that they're supposed to be kind of fitting into, which is a good shorthand of kind of letting players know what they're getting into with these different characters. But it's well enough that each character, regardless of their body type or what they do, has like attractive qualities, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. But I was kind of disappointed that with the character creator, the art style didn't really mesh with how detailed these daddies were drawn. Like when my character like popped up on screen, it was just so vastly different. Like it was hard to stay immersed when like my cartoon character style daddy is there.
I mean, it might have had something to do with you giving yourself Goku hair.
Well, I mean, I've done multiple playthroughs. I did hipster Goku for the one I played this week, because, yeah, why not? But in other ones, I've made more sincere characters, I guess, and it just kind of was jarring at times. I don't know. Like, the character creator definitely isn't terrible. Like, I like the choices that you were able to make in there. Like you said, Jack, you can be trans. Like, there's different little details that make it nice, I guess. But yeah, there was just a little bit of a disconnect with how the style was for those characters.
I don't really agree with that. Like at least my character turned out in such a way that it was fine. What did you name your character, by the way?
For this round?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, this one was Goku Booty. Because, yeah, I can't remember what I named my characters in my other two playthroughs. Yeah, I can't remember.
I was going for, like, a realistic name for kind of the character I was going for, so I went with Douglas McDougal.
Yeah.
And I thought that worked really well. I was really happy with both the visual style and also just the name and how it kind of fit into the world. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. Which daddy did you go with first?
First, huh? Okay. How do I remember which one was first? I think my first playthrough, I went with Robert.
Ooh.
I know.
Judgment coming your way.
Mysterious daddy.
Mysterious but then overly flirtatious daddy.
But also very standoffish. So in that first playthrough, I did more of the, just single playthrough. And then the second game, I romanced all the dads to the second date and then saved my file and then, went back and played them to, get, so I've played through most of their endings. So, but the other one I did was Matt. So we got a link there, both Doug Matt, because he's adorable. And then,
he's so socially awkward and sweet.
Yeah, so he's super sweet, but super, super hot at the same, good combo.
And that's objective. Yeah. That's not a subjective opinion. He's just objectively a very attractive character.
Yeah. So, yeah. But those were the characters that I just liked the most. I liked Damien's character too, because Goth Daddy, but I don't know, no, I'll take that back. I liked him as well. I'd say those were my top three.
Okay.
I just liked how sweet his character turned out to be,
Yeah.
But how about you? Who was your favorite daddy?
Matt, obviously, but then
Okay.
runners up were Craig. And
Craig, bro.
I think Craig and Hugo.
Okay.
But I ended up not liking Hugo too much.
Yeah, Hugo kind of fell flat for me the most, at least, out of those characters.
Like I thought he would be more interesting, and then he just kind of wound up being
pretentious.
He wound up being all mustache and glasses.
Yep. Yeah, I found it the same. But yeah, Craig is also objectively attractive. I mean, they're all pretty objectively attractive,
Yeah.
But Craig, yep.
I couldn't get behind Brian though, because he was just so competitive.
Douche dad.
Tone it down a little bit, Brian.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he definitely wasn't one of my favorites either. But again, had those dynamic qualities that made him at least interesting to play through.
And I mostly felt bad for Joseph. He
Yeah.
seemed like he's bitten off a little bit too much of life, I guess.
Well, yeah, he has, 4 or 5 kids?
Yeah, he has 4 kids.
Yeah. And he's married, so that's one of the big things. He's married to, I think her name is Mary, Joseph and Mary.
Yep.
And Mary's kind of a wild one. She hangs out with Robert, which is interesting to see her character, because they actually did flesh her out. She's not just the wife, like
Yeah.
she gets mad at you because she knows something's up. But
I get the feeling that it's kind of a loveless marriage.
Yeah, and she knows that, so she's kind of being a little reckless. But I mean, that's how a real person would act. You can't always just separate from someone if there's no love there, especially when you have children. Like, so again, they kind of dive into these deeper, a little bit darker topics.
Or not even necessarily darker, but just
not dark,
more
but heavier,
nebulous, more complex than just black and white.
Yeah, complex. That's a good way to put it. Complex. Which again is refreshing, because that wouldn't happen in, let's say, one that you would find on Steam, where it would just be a kinky thing to be stealing someone's husband. This actually goes into the hurt that you can cause. And I can't remember exactly what happens in Joseph's timeline, and I won't spoil anything, but they do consider that when you do get Joseph's ending. So,
and I should say, you can get Dream Daddy on Steam, so I'm not trying to knock the entire platform.
Okay, how about a game that you would just haphazardly find in the dating sim section on Steam? Yes. So in Dream Daddy, you can romance all 7 dads, but you can't necessarily end up with all dads, and that caused a tiny bit of controversy, because in the dating sim genre, the idea is that you are this love god who can get whatever you want, right? So how do you feel about not being able to end up with all of the dads?
I don't care. I don't care. I know it might kind of fly in the face of the convention of the genre, but
screw convention.
Too bad. I think it's fine.
It's more realistic.
You can always do what you did and save your game, and then go on the final date with each dad.
Yeah. But yeah, I didn't find a problem with that at all either. Like, one dad just needed some space, and that happens. Like, you can have this really deep, intimate relationship with someone that only lasts like a week, and then they just can't connect, and that happens. There's other dads that you do end up with, and there's some, it's a diverse range of endings. I need a better word for that. Relationships, sure. Yeah.
Let's see, what I am kind of curious. Do you know how this game came to exist as a thing? Because I
don't.
There wasn't
I don't know too much about Game Grumps. I don't know why they made this game.
Well, so I've watched a fair amount of Game Grumps over the years, and there are some videos that I find incredibly incredibly cathartic to go back and watch and laugh at. I will say that one thing that bugged me was that because I have watched a significant amount of Game Grumps, hearing their grunts and groans as part of the conversing with the dads made me a little bit uncomfortable. Gosh, hearing Danny go, ugh. It's just kind of like,
Oh.
Oh my. I think generally they're just a couple of people, and then there are a few people behind the scenes of them, obviously, that are just trying to do their best to be good. And I imagine that they heard this concept and were really enthused about it because they know their games, and I know Aaron came up from the Newgrounds scene, which, for those youngsters out there, Newgrounds was a website where people would play games and they would post them, and it was a pretty big hub for indie game development back in the day.
Gosh, I forgot about Newgrounds.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
And
anyway.
So Aaron was an animator on Newgrounds, and he did the Awesome series, and then I think he made the transition over to YouTube, and eventually Let's Plays became a thing, and he hopped aboard that train pretty early and started the Game Grumps, which was originally him and JonTron, and then he and JonTron parted ways due to some behind-the-scenes drama, we'll say.
And not so behind-the-scenes after, or backlash, so...
Yeah, and then they got Dan on board, and Dan has been fantastic ever since. And I imagine that they just know the genre really well, and they realize that there's not really a decent gay dating sim out there. There's just not. Not for gay dudes anyway, because for gay women simulators, there's like a weird kind of hetero market for that.
Yeah, like tons of yaoi.
Yeah.
For women specifically.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's all I know, really.
Yeah.
I just don't know where the original idea for this came from. I don't know how involved they were in the actual development of the game beyond putting their voices. I know Vernon Shaw was part of their behind-the-scenes team for a while, and he's been on a few episodes of Game Grumps, but I don't know how involved the actual two Game Grumps were in the creation of the game.
Yeah.
In my slight perusal of research, because I'm very busy this week, I didn't really find much on the making of Dream Daddy, and there's probably more stuff out there, but I'm sorry I can't be more helpful.
Same. But yeah. So, are there any points that you want to make before we go to a very special corner called Contrarian Corner?
Well, so one thing I would like to ask, because this is something that comes up, I think, with visual novels in particular. Are visual novels good games? Because there is an argument out there that says visual novels are mostly just text. So, and your interaction with them is so minimal. I mean, visual novel is in the name, so does it even really count as a game? Can we have a visual novel that's one of the best games of all time?
I mean, yes, I definitely think so, because they can have such a huge impact on people depending on, their intention and how well they're actually produced. Like, they're pretty similar to walking sims, right?
Yeah.
Where you don't really have much sway in what's actually happening. You're more exploring and unveiling the story. And that, I mean, they go pretty much hand in hand, I think. Like, for instance, Gone Home is extremely effective, but all you're doing in the game is opening doors. There's slight puzzles, but not really. You're opening doors, you're listening to audio logs, and that's it. But it is an extremely touching and emotional game. And I think that dating sims can encompass that. I know that their draw usually isn't, but Dream Daddy is an example of what they can be. I mean, I'm sure there are people out there who play this game who are deeply affected by it. Like, for instance, and we've been mentioning this a bunch, but your ability to choose a trans character. That is an enormous, enormous thing in games. Like, that just does not come up, like, ever. And they gave that opportunity for people to express themselves, and that's just wonderful. But then going into the story, you get to see those little moments that people can relate to. Like, for instance, losing a partner and still having to raise a kid. That is a tough thing that people have to deal with. Or, you know, even being that socially awkward person who doesn't really want to meet new people but knows that they should, not only for their sake but for other people's sake. Like, those are all really tough things that people deal with every day. So I think any genre in gaming that is intentional and sets out to say pretty much, I don't want to say anything, but to say something maybe, is an effective piece of artwork that could be one of the best games, period.
Well, so I hear what you're saying, and I agree with you. I think that if I were to play devil's advocate, though, people would say there's just not enough gameplay in something like this to make it a good game. Yeah, that's generally the argument that they go with. Like, you're basically just clicking dialogue options, so is that really a good game, like on a mechanical level?
Yeah.
Especially when you're comparing stuff to... When you're comparing that to a game like... I don't know, what's a game that's very mechanic heavy that's recent that I can point to? Looking at my shelves, Metal Gear Solid.
Oh man, well, and it's tough too because a lot of visual novels are just flat pieces of artwork with, you know, minimal animation at times, like, and sometimes minimal voice acting, like those grunts. So they're a lot less tech heavy than even a walking sim, because at least in a walking sim you have to navigate a world that was built, you know, whether that be 2D or 3D. So it's tough, but I mean, a game, I still think that these qualify as games. from my heart,
yeah.
This counts. But of course there's always going to be those games that kind of push back on that. Like, for example, there's a lot of, you know, casino games that you can play on your phone. Do those count as video games? You know, like slot machines on your phone. Like, does that still count? See, that's where it's almost like the opposite. You lose all of the narrative, but you only have the mechanics, you know? So there's always going to be a debate on what games are and what qualifies as a real game for real gamers. So, I don't know. It's always going to be up in the air. But I think, yes, that dating sims are, and graphic novels and visual game novels are games.
To clarify, you just said graphic novels are games?
Or visual novels.
There we go.
Or, oh my god, what am I saying?
That's fine, I'm just being nitpicky. No,
whatever that damn genre is, yes.
And I agree with you 100%. I just wanted to hear you make the case for it, I guess.
Make me do the work.
Yeah. Well, and it's really, it is that it's interaction that makes a game a game. And so you're interacting with it and you are investing yourself into it. And I think that's really part of the power of games. You are making a decision, and usually most people aren't making decisions based on cold logic or something. Like, they're making a decision as their character. And I think that is kind of the mindset that these kinds of games are supposed to be lulling you into. And I think this one does a really good job of it.
Yeah, and I mean, you make a good point making a decision in general, because this isn't just like a TV show. You can't do anything in a TV show. But then that brings up, hey, when you're voting, on American Idol, does that count? No. But anyway, before we go on to a huge tangent there.
Is American Idol one of the best games, period?
Game. Because you made a decision. Oh my god. Yeah. Yeah.
I will say one of the things that was interesting for me is just seeing a lot of people, I guess maybe circling back around to a lot of the inclusivity of this game. Just they don't get it. And that's interesting to me because it seems so blatantly obvious on the surface. Like, that's why this game exists, to include more people into this genre, into this gaming space. And to tell stories that aren't necessarily ever told in other, in this gaming space. And there's just so many people who I was reading through a lot of comments that they're like, oh, we bought this because of Game Grumps, but then I found out it was a real game and not just a giant joke about gay dads. It's just like,
I know.
Just let it, like,
yeah.
Why can't it be a sweet, fun, adorable, cute game about gay dads?
Yeah.
What's wrong with that?
That's why Life is Strange Before the Storm was so captivating for me, is because it had the lesbian portrayal, not betrayal. Even though, like, looking back, yeah, objectively it was not good. The story was a mess, but I was still completely captured by just being able to see two women having a relationship in a game. Like, we need more of that.
As the main
My
characters.
God.
Too.
Yes, exactly. And yes, debatably, that was in Life is Strange, the first one, but it wasn't as pronounced and blatant. So, yeah.
Yeah.
We need more. Give us more.
So let's cut right down to it before Contrarian Corner. Would you say that Dream Daddy is one of the best games, period?
So, after all of the praise that I've given it, I still wouldn't consider it one of the best games, period. Even though the dialogue and storylines were very endearing for me, and I thought they did a great job, I think they could have done a lot better. There were just points where, I mean, besides the minigames, the minigames could have obviously been better, but I just think it felt a little rushed. And the stories were kind of just tied up into these neat little packages of, 3 dates and 3 dates end. So I think that kind of pushed it back a little, for its full potential. And I can't really give all of the reasons or the ways that it could have been fixed. It's just an instinct,
Yeah.
And a subjective opinion. Oh my gosh, those don't exist in games. What?
No, all games criticism should be objective.
Yep. So I am gonna say no for this one, but I dearly love it.
Okay, interesting. I'm actually gonna say yes. I thought that this was a beautiful game on many levels, both about fatherhood and relationships and navigating complex human spaces where you're not necessarily sure what you're supposed to be doing or how you're supposed to be acting, but you still gotta do it. and I think that this really tackled the issue of just issues like sexuality and gender in a really nuanced way, and the fact that it was pretty short if you just followed one story path, just left me feeling like I wanted more, which isn't, I think that's a point in the game's favor rather than anything against
Saw
it.
it as positive.
Yeah, whenever a game leaves me thinking I could use more of this, or imagine how incredible this game, if the developers of this game went on to develop a game about moms, hot moms.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome. I would totally play that game. That'd be great. And I just thought it was really great.
Bring on the hot moms game.
It was really great, and there's not really a whole lot of competition in this particular part of the visual novel. Visual novels treating people as people. What? And maybe that's me being underexposed to the genre. Like, I'm sure that there probably are a lot more complex visual novels out there than I might be aware of. But
let us know about it, please. Yeah. Tweet to us. We would love to play those games.
Tweet us your hot saucy recommendations. Because I'm always interested in learning more about this kind of stuff, and I think this is, if I were to recommend a dating simulator that isn't supposed to be taken as a joke, like How to Fool Boyfriend, for example, like that's a joke game, I would recommend Dream Daddy. And nothing against How to Fool Boyfriend. We'll probably talk about it on the show at some point. But yeah, I think Dream Daddy is probably the best dating simulator I've ever played. So
yeah, I haven't played a ton of them, but from what I can, well, actually, I haven't really played like any. The most I've played have been pretty short, like within half an hour or so. Yeah, I definitely would love to play more. So please send us your recommendations. But yeah, I agree that it's more polished and is a good entry point into the genre, I guess. But yeah. All right. Is it that time?
Contrarian Corner.
All right. So I have a couple of reviews here. We'll go with the super negative one first. This one is from Extremaman. And this was written this year in January. And it says, visual novels are the worst type of games. In fact, they're not games at all.
There we
Even
go.
though I can tolerate, even though I can tolerate a visual novel, if it has a good story, artwork, and characters, Dream Daddy has none of it. It's lazy, cliche, extremely cringe, including and forced. Okay.
Has this person never had a dad? Because dad jokes are just cringeworthy, and your tolerance for them will probably determine whether or not you can enjoy this game.
Yes, we did not talk about those puns. They are everywhere.
It is like amazing.
Banana bread Kennedys.
Yes.
All right, and then the second one is a little bit more sincere, and it is from Austin Atlantis, written July 21st, 2017. And they say, I really, really wanted to love this game. I didn't think this game was absolutely terrible, but there are a few reasons I don't recommend it, and I'm hoping I can get a refund on it. The game is too short. You only get 3 dates per dad, and the payoff at the end is not very good. You end up feeling like there should be a lot more in their routes, but there isn't. 2. Not all dads get a sex scene. It seems weird to include one for some, but not all. 3. The voice acting in the game is low quality. Some sound clips are much louder than others. Some sound like they were recorded with a bad mic. And I think it was Teacher Dad by I think his name is Ray.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one wasn't consistent with the other ones, I noticed. Anyway. Number 4, for what the game is, I think it's too expensive, especially if they're truly planning on having paid DLC. I've not heard any plans about paid DLC, but that'd be awesome. Overall, the game just feels incomplete. I don't think 3 dates per route is enough to really be satisfied with the outcome. I feel the developers should have taken their time to really flesh out a complete game instead of literally rushing it out to get it out ASAP.
I disagree with.
I don't think
the length.
Yeah.
In particular?
Well, no. Yeah.
Like,
even though I just said that I think they needed more.
I mean, so this game's $15, and
which is not unreasonable at all.
I played it for 8 hours to reach the ending, and I went on probably 8 dates ish.
Yeah.
And that's, 3 dates times 8 dads. 24 dads? Dad dates?
Yeah, like, my playthrough was about, I think I was at like 25 hours total.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you can definitely get some length out of it. And when I said before that I thought it was too short and kind of rushed, I mean in the writing and not necessarily the actual length. I just think that the formula kind of forced them into that, and that's what I meant. Just to clarify.
Good clarification.
I try.
Hair flip.
Are we done dreaming of daddies?
Never.
Good answer. Yeah.
What do we do now?
Well, I can make a note that this podcast will be the first of a kind of themed month. So we're doing a dating sim kind of month, where at least we'll go with visual novel, because some of the other games in this month won't necessarily be dating sims.
Cast our net a little bit.
You could debate
wider.
that. So, and that's kind of a formula that we are going to play with this month and see if we like it, and let us know if you like it. So we'll be going with a theme every month.
Obviously, October is horror month. I just want to...
Oh, yeah.
I just want to put that down there.
So we think that'd be pretty fun. And yeah, so yeah, I think that's all I have.
Okay. If you want to... I also have something I want to plug. If you are listening to this, that means that the very first episodes of We Wanted Adventurers is out now. So you can find that over at WeWad_podcast on twitter.com. And also, it should be on soundcloud.com/WeWantedAdventurers. And it's also soon coming to iTunes, but it's not quite there yet. And speaking of iTunes, you can find this podcast on iTunes, The Best Games, period, on iTunes. Leave us a review if you like the show. If you want to support us elsewhere, we are on Extra Life, community.extra-life.org. And if you don't know what Extra Life is, it's a wonderful charity that helps sick and injured kids get better. So you can learn more over at extra-life.org. And while you're there, if you sign up, you can actually choose which Children's Miracle Network hospital you want to support, and 100% of everything you raise goes directly to that hospital to help sick and injured kids in your local area, or at a hospital that means a lot to you, and I think that's pretty sweet. On that note, you can find us on SoundCloud, Libsyn, all kinds of different places. Check us out, and follow us on Twitter, all that stuff, Facebook. And if you are really if you really like the show, if you want to support us or whatever and help us keep the lights on, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/bestgamesperiod, where you get access to super special episodes, and I believe one, if you're listening to this, should have just come out on Patreon. So get excited for that, and you get access to those no matter how much or how little you give to us every month. So if you just want to give us $1, we'd really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And we'll see you all on the flippity dippity.